So you create layouts in 12 by 12 and print them in 8 by 8. I know there are a lot of digital scrapbookers that do this as a practice, and I think the majority of them do. I'm not sure, but I really think that the majority of them do this, and I never have, so I've never had to take a moment to investigate what happens to text in this practice. I have had students in my local class ask me, why do they do that? Why do they print in 12 by 12 but always or create in 12 by 12 and always print in 8 by 8? And the best answer I have for that is that you can always resize down, but you cannot always resize up, and maybe your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren might want to print a 12 by 12 book for themselves, and it would not print well if you had created it in 8 by 8 and resized up to 12 by 12. And so I think the general consensus is it's best to scrap in the largest size and then print smaller if you want. However, I'm learning today, and I've kind of changed my opinion about this from my playing here. I've learned today what happens to text when resizing and what size text you're going to need to make in 12 by 12 to make it readable in 8 by 8. If you didn't follow that, hopefully you will here in just a bit. I have here a 12 by 12 file. You can see that down here at the bottom at 300 ppi, and I just used the custom shape tool to create this from one edge of the paper to the other, just so that we can see what also happens to the shapes. Now, I could always visualize in my head, of course, the pictures and the shapes and the papers and the tags and the ribbons, they're all going to stay in proportion as you resize down. That would make sense that the text would also resize in proportion as you go down. And so if you resize a 12 by 12, what may be readable in your text at 12 point on a 12 by 12 layout is not going to be as readable in an 8 by 8. And so I've run these tests, and I want to show you what happens. So here's my text. I just typed some random stuff on the page, and you can see it is Arial. I used Arial because that's really a common type of font, and then 12, and then I saved this file as is. But next I reduce the file. So let's go to the image. Now let me before I get away from this, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on your screen as I'm doing it, but I encourage you to do this test yourself, since it's so simple. And as you do it, or if you can see it on my screen, watch what it says in the size of the font as I make this change. Go to the image drop down menu, resize, and I'm not getting that same option that I got before. Let's go down here to the background, image, resize, and then we're going to resize image size. And now this image size box comes up, and we still see up here it says 12 point. Now I'm going to show you quickly, if you leave it in these default settings and just put 8 by 8 in there, you're going to see the resolution jumps up to 450, which is going to keep this at 3600 by 3600 pixels. That's fine, but we really don't need the resolution that high. So what we want to do is click, let me get out of this and go back into it, resize image size. And so what we want to do is click resample image, and then we can change the size to 8 by 8, and that resolution is going to stay at 300, and you see the pixel dimensions drop down to 2400 by 2400. I don't know if that will. That's a whole nother lesson. I have some other tutorials on that, but that's something you have to play with to really grasp. But we want this to be 800 by 800 to 300 pixels. Note here it still says 12 point Arial text. I'm going to hit OK and watch what happens. When we click out here on our text, it's now saying 8 point. And so if you use an 12 point text in a 12 by 12 and reduce it down to 8 by 8, your font size is going to become 8 point, and that's the size that it's going to be reading at. Now, I don't know if you have ever tried to read 8 point size text after it's printed out, but I wouldn't want to have to read a whole bunch of it. Not in my old eyes. Let's hit the undo button, and we're going to go back up to this 12 by 12 size, and I'm going to change my text to show you what happens. Let's do it to 14 point. I've already done this test, so I know what's going to happen, but I want you to see what happens. And let's go to Image, Resize, Image Size, and we're going to make it 8 by 8 again. Now let's watch what happens to that text. It now becomes a 9.33 point. So a 14 point size text in 12 by 12 is going to resize down to a 9.33 text in 8 by 8. Let's hit that undo button again and do another test, which I've already done, so I know what's going to happen. Now I've got 18 point font in 12 by 12. Image, resize, image size. Let's make that an 8 by 8 and watch what happens. Now you'll see that I didn't even have to touch anything. This is what was happening to me earlier. Now you'll see that the font size is 12 by 12. So if you want to make your text readable and you're creating your original layout in 12 by 12 but intend to print it at 8 by 8, your font size probably needs to be at least 18 point. And I'm betting many of you are not making your text size that large. And this is just for the journaling. You're going to want it a whole lot larger for your titles. So I'm hoping that this is making sense, and I want to show you what I also did was create an 8 by 8 size file. Here's 8 by 8 inches from the original version size at 300 ppi, and I made my text at 12 point, and I saved this as a JPEG. And so I have several JPEGs. I have one, and let's just see if I can find this image. Here's my files that I've made. Let me open this image. Make it get down here so you can see it. Okay, this is something I have scanned in. What I did was saved them as JPEGs in various formats and printed them out. And this is actually 3 different printings that I scanned together on one page. I went back and added the red highlighting so that you could see what happens. And I see I'm going on 10 minutes here. I'm going to run out of time for my YouTube video. But this top one is a the 8x8 12-point font and printed just as it is, and you can see it prints at a 12-point font size. The second one was the 12x12 JPEG, and I just saved it as is. I just saved it as is, as a 12x12 3600 by 3600 pixels, I think it is. And when I went into the printer options to print it, I told it to print on a smaller paper. I told it to print on an 8x10 paper. And I told this one to print on an 8x10 paper also. I used the same settings for all three. And so the printer settings actually reduced the file then to fit onto the page, and you can see how smaller the text is. This is that 8-point text that I was showing you in the other file. And this bottom one, I thought, well, what happens? I have to try everything, and I tried actually more settings than these, but these are the three I'm showing you because the results were all the same. This one, I took this 12x12 JPEG and I opened it up in Photoshop Elements and I resized it down to an 8x8. So I'm not resizing the PSD files as we were doing when I was showing you here in Elements. I resized the actual JPEG file and then resized it down to 8x8 and printed it out, and you can see it's the same size, if not smaller. I think though it's about the same size as this one. And so all versions that I did, different methods of resizing down to 8x8, every one of them made the text smaller like this. But you can see, isn't it interesting, the banner size from edge to edge stayed the same. Now that might be a little bit too much for our brains. My brain might hurt to try to figure that one out. I think I can figure it out, but I can't explain it. So I'll let you just chew on that and think on that for a while, why the banner size stayed the same and the text size got smaller. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you've learned a little bit from this. I really have too. I know I've done some, I do mostly letter size scrapping. I'm called a rectangle scrapper, and I have done some square scrapping. I made some books that I got printed at Shutterfly and wanted to do those, and I actually created them originally in 8x8, and after reviewing this, I'm kind of glad I did. Weighing the pluses and the minuses, reducing the file size makes that text too small to read. It also, if I have those 12x12 files, they're going to be taking up so much more room on my computer, so much more computer space than those 8x8s in 300 ppi, and so I just really myself see no reason to make 12x12s if I'm never going to print that big, just in hopes that someday my great-grandchildren might want that larger size. I think it's probably best for you to create in the size that you want to print in, simply for little factors like this that might happen that are kind of unseen, and so you, with your things so precious as they are, you really, and as much time as we take working on them, you really want them to come out like you see on the screen. And changing sizes, as we can see, sometimes can be disadvantaged. Yeah, not an advantage. I'll say that word after I record the turn off the recording of the video. Okay, I hope you've learned as much as I have, and have fun.